said, that's what I was about to ask. So thank you. Um, Today we will be learning all about the new Entrepreneur Pathway curriculum for high school students offered by the Young Entrepreneur Institute and the associated resources for this curriculum offered from Startup TradeUp. This curriculum was developed by Emily Kilgore, a high school educator in Northeast Ohio, with the help of many stakeholders, including Nadia Mullen, who is with us today. We are very fortunate that EntrepreNew is now owned by the Young Entrepreneur Institute. It is open source and will always be available free of charge. Training and support from Emily Kilgore and Nadia Mullen is available through YIPI, which is an amazing opportunity for YIPI members. I'm Robin Eisen, Special Projects Manager at YEI, YIPI Manager, and your host today. Thanks for participating in our open question. We have an amazing conference coming for you, being planned right now, called the Inspire Conference. And it's always helpful to get information about what attracts or grabs your attention so that we can better plan. More on that later in the hour. Couple of housekeeping notes. We are recording this, thank you. And the recording, as well as the slides and any links we talk about or discuss today, will be provided to you and made available to you. We'll send you a follow-up email, so be on the lookout for that. Feel free to ask questions during the session. This is a workshop, and we're hoping that it is engaging and there is a lot of back and forth and that you get a lot out of this. So feel free to ask any questions. But I am going to keep this to an hour. So if we run out of time and don't get to your question, I'm going to stay on afterwards and answer any questions that I can. And both Nadia and Emily are available for questions outside of this workshop. We want to make sure that your questions do get answered and that we stay to the 1 hour time frame. So we're going to be looking at your questions and monitoring those questions, and helping me do that is all of the team members from the Young Entrepreneur Institute with all of our same backgrounds. Just a few quick notes about the song selection today. As I was listening to the talking heads explaining what made Jimmy Buffett so special, as you know, he passed away earlier in this week, I noticed that they all applauded his music abilities and how he was best known for his tropical rock music that portrayed a lifestyle of island escapism. They listed his businesses and applauded his business skills, but no one really connected the dots that Jimmy Buffett was a brilliant entrepreneur. His first career was made of music, telling stories to tunes that we can all remember and sing along to today. He then turned his storytelling to writing books, but his most successful endeavor was that of an entrepreneur when he built his brand, a diversified lifestyle brand. He took his passion, saw a need in the market, saw a need in the market and got thousands of fans to buy a cheeseburger in paradise from his Margaritaville restaurant, then go back to their Margaritaville hotel or their Margaritaville retirement community and read a book he wrote while listening to How It Is 5 O'Clock Somewhere and drinking a Land Shark beer. His business acumen made him one of the most financially successful musicians of all time and made people relax and almost feel as though they had the sun on their face and the sounds of the ocean waves coming ashore in their ears. No one can deny that his skill set included that of an entrepreneur. And it just so happens that we are going to be learning a lot about these skill sets today from Nadia Mullen. Nadia is the Director of Operations at Startup TradeUp, and as I mentioned earlier, one of the creators of EntrepreNew. Startup TradeUp is an organization that offers training services on the EntrepreNew Pathways material. They bridge the gap between the classroom and the real world by building meaningful, sustainable relationships between business community, educators, and students. Nadia is going to be leading our workshop on the EntrepreNew curriculum today, and I am going to pass it over to Nadia. So welcome, Nadia.
Thank you so much, Robin. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Bear with me for just a moment. While I'm doing that, Emily, do you want to say hi as well? You're here too. So our program is, pardon me for just a moment. Fun fact, Emily has been in the entrepreneurship education space for a long time. And actually a student in her very first class. So for years, EntrepreNew has been sort of noodling around, I think, in Emily's brain. But the program as it is today, and as we will share it with you, really came together in 2019. So I appreciate that you're here. I'm very excited to share this with you. Before we get started, I would like to ask if you can't respond, that's fine. If you can drop it in the chat, that's fine. If you have accessed the materials, let us know. If you have not accessed the materials, also let us know. I'm just curious about the mix of folks in the group today. And then also, if anyone here is a CTE teacher, let us know as well. All right. A couple of items regarding materials. I'm not going to dig into registration today or how to link the materials to your chosen LMS, but I did want to note the materials are shared a little bit differently than normal. When you get access to the curriculum, you're actually being given access to a shared drive from which you will make copies of the curricular materials. So you're not getting a document or a download. You're going to be using the materials flexibly, either as documents or sheets, etc. So if you have any questions on this or that sounds complicated, it's not. But we built a video for you on the EntrepreNew EDU website. It's very brief and it includes step-by-step instructions for you to make those copies and then use them, either link them to your LMS or print them and use them as handouts in your classroom. So, all right. EntrepreNew Pathways. What is it? Today, we are exploring EntrepreNew Pathways, which is a comprehensive and turnkey curriculum for entrepreneurship focused on grades 10 through 12. When I say comprehensive, I mean comprehensive. Included in what you access is everything you possibly need to offer the program. Complete lesson plans, assessments, worksheets, etc. I really want to stress that this is intended for grades 10 through 12. If you are not a grade 10 through 12 teacher, this program is probably not for your students just yet. It's incredibly student-led and directed and encourages a lot of interaction with professionals in your local business community. So it does require a degree of maturity that you don't usually see, at least in our experience, with students below 10th grade. I would suggest if you're teaching 8th or 9th grade, you might want to stay and hear about some of our flexible options. I think that pieces of our program could be adopted for you. But if you're like a K-5 or a 6th, 7th, 8th grade teacher, this program and perhaps this session isn't for you. Additionally, EntrepreNew mentor maps for CTE are available. That is a set of programming very closely related, meant to help you embed entrepreneurship into your cosmetology or construction technologies programs. We are not exploring the mentor maps today. We are discussing the comprehensive curriculum of pathways. So just an FYI, we will be offering a workshop on the mentor maps later this year. So part of the program, a main part of the program, are what we call these three pillars, and they are extreme exposure to entrepreneurship, mentorship, and global power skill development. Global power skill is the phrase that we've used to sort of describe and encompass both employability skills and skills associated with the entrepreneurial mindset. I mention these today because they're important, they're integral to the program, and I will refer to them throughout the rest of our hour together. But truthfully, today we're really going to deep dive and focus on that first pillar, extreme exposure to entrepreneurship. A couple of use cases. Emily teaches an entrepreneurship program at Woodridge High School, and that's open to students across several districts. This is all that she teaches. It is her curriculum. Just because it can be a self-contained and standalone curriculum doesn't mean it has to be used that way. It's appropriate for someone who is a business educator like Emily within CTE. It's appropriate for a business educator who is not in CTE. if you teach an elective semester program that's business foundations, this is appropriate for you. It's pretty flexible, and we'll get into that. It's also appropriate for traditional 10 to 12 classrooms. There are key pieces, workshop in particular, that we'll explore towards the end, that do a really good job of connecting and supporting learning, not just entrepreneurial learning, but learning that you might find in a social studies or English or psychology classroom as well. So if you're looking to embed entrepreneurship learning primarily through a work-based or experiential aspect, and you teach in a traditional 10 through 12 classroom, this is absolutely something that can help you do that. So please stick around. Finally, I do want to say, I use words like comprehensive, and it throws people off. It's a little intimidating. When you access your materials, you're going to get access to a folder, a resources folder that has over 100 documents in it. And when you see that, it is very easy to be overwhelmed. To tell yourself it's too much and this isn't for me and I don't know where to start. It's not, I promise it's not. And we're going to spend most of the rest of today talking about how you can start using the materials immediately and how you might want to grow the program over time. Before we dive in, I love to share some feedback from others who have been a part of our program. I co-created it. I could tell you all day that it's wonderful and amazing. Or I could let some of our previous students and some of our partners tell you a little bit about their perspective of the program.
As we were developing EntrepreNew, we worked with a lot of entrepreneurs.
EntrepreNew would have been beneficial to me because when I was in school, I always got pretty good grades. So I was sort of on the track to college. It would have been fantastic to have some sort of curriculum in place for people that, like me, that had that different way of thinking.
The Entrepreneur program is such a great resource and something I wish I had when I was 16 to 18. I still pursued entrepreneurship in college, but I had no idea what entrepreneurship even was. I could have grown my business and been $1 million company by the time I was 21. I know it could have only allowed me to have more successes and learn how to be the best entrepreneur I can be.
If I had this program, I would have jumped on it in a heartbeat. I would have been part of the EntrepreNew program when I was 16, 17 years old, junior, senior in high school. I would have been there for sure. And I think it really would have saved me 5-6 years on my trajectory.
So if you're a teenager, if you're a kid in high school, 16 years old, 18 years old, whatever, the main thing I wish I had been thinking about at that time is not waiting for the perfect dream. You can't let perfect, get in the way of starting something.
I think the number one thing that excites me about entrepreneurship is just being able to take your dreams and literally turn them into reality.
All of us that own businesses or that work for other businesses, when a kid asks for our help, we'll drop anything to help them. That's what we want to do. We want to impart this knowledge onto these kids so that they can maybe shortcut their path a little bit, or to maybe alleviate just some of that stress that comes with trying to figure it out on your own.
The EntrepreNew Business Program is a business class, but it's focused on
real-life situations that can be applied to businesses today.
Designed for young entrepreneurs that have a passion for business.
So in EntrepreNew, we have amazing opportunities. We meet inspiring entrepreneurs that tell us the personal business story, and we also have mentors that help guide us and help us create our own business.
EntrepreNew has given me the opportunity to start my own clothing brand, and it's all hands-on.
Everything we've done this year in class has been beneficial. And
even if you don't have an idea, you never know what you could think of.
If you are a young entrepreneur looking for a way to learn about business and entrepreneurship, this is the class for you.
So I hope that you're as excited about the program as I and my partners are. We're going to jump into some of the details now, some of the nitty-gritty of using the program. So you've got your materials. Now what? Much like you saw, we have partnered with entrepreneurs across a spectrum of industries to help build our program. And they have all volunteered their time and their expertise to make their experience accessible and meaningful for your students. So if you have the materials and you want to get started today, there are 2 easy ways to do that. That's our video speaker series and the video workshops. Additionally, the program is flexible. There are 2 ways that you can adapt key aspects of EntrepreNew for any 10th through 12 classroom. And we're going to highlight very specific lessons and activities that you might find helpful. If you don't want to use everything and you want to use some of it, these are some key pieces you might find really beneficial. And then finally, at the very end, we're going to talk about growing your program by expanding implementation. I mentioned at the start that we have 3 pillars. At the end, we'll come back to that and talk about building your own speaker series so that you can bring local exposure to entrepreneurship to your classroom. Building a mentor program for your students, and using what we call checkpoints, but are essentially your assessments so that you could collect real data and demonstrate real skill growth should you need to. Extreme exposure to entrepreneurship. This is the foundational philosophy. This idea that children must see what they can be is the reason that EntrepreNew exists. We've all asked ourselves or asked someone else or been asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it seems like a really harmless question. It's meant to be fun, right? Engage a child, learn about their passion, think about your future. It can be a really limiting question and can add a lot of pressure to a child as well, whether they're in elementary school or in high school. Students tend to fall into this talk track when they ask that question. They tell you all about the career they want to be, which is one of a handful that's been modeled to them. I was going to be an Olympic gold medalist swimmer or a lawyer. Those were my dreams as a child. I remember liking swim classes and being riveted by the Sydney Olympics in 2000. I watched all kinds of whodunits as a kid and thought that being an investigator or an attorney would be fascinating. It didn't occur to me that I needed to go to law school and all of that, right? The perception was really naive. And I think that's very typical. It never occurred to me that I could work in education like I do today without being a teacher in a K-12 classroom. I didn't even know that experience was possible until I was in my late 20s. So in order to sort of stave that off and help cut that experience down for children, we've really leaned into and based a lot of what we do on this idea that children must see what they can be. Essentially, if you do not put children in the path of real professionals in areas that interest them, they will never see that career or pathway or opportunity as possible. And if you and your students can meaningfully engage with these partners, your students can see themselves, their skills, and their futures very differently. Ultimately, connecting students and professionals of various industries, particularly entrepreneurs who had various pathways to their entrepreneurial careers, and in a way that engages those entrepreneurs and your students. If you do that, you will change the enthusiasm of a student in your classroom and ultimately the way that they see their futures. So to do this, we've provided you with a speaker series, what we call the EntrepreNew Inspiring Entrepreneur Guest Speaker Series. We brought in a number of professionals locally. These are all successful local entrepreneurs who represent various industries and have shared their time and expertise with our students locally and by extension with yours through our video series. So I don't want to show all of them or even an entire video, but I do want to note a few special ones. So to give you an idea of the kinds of topics and what we really mean by meaningful engagement, I'm going to show you a short piece of 3 of our videos. So this is Tom Knepp. He's the creator of Pulp Juice and Smoothie. And this is Tom telling us a little bit about what his biggest challenge as an entrepreneur has been.
Biggest challenge, obviously it was very tough starting something from nothing, but that was all very fun for me. It was fun to figure out And although those years were hard, I look back at those as very happy years. If I'm going to say the toughest challenge, it was probably when I started franchising. I loved my pulp, cared about it a lot. To give that to somebody else to take care of was very rough for me. I remember losing a lot of sleep, staring at my walls, getting upset, and just thinking, why won't they do it how I'm doing it? You know, this works. It took a long time, you know, maybe 5 or 6 stores in before I started realizing that, you know, there are more than one way to do things. I can't expect these guys to do everything exactly as I do it or get upset when they don't. They are different people. They're going to run their business, you know, differently. Yes, I make sure that, hey, the recipes are being adhered to and certain things that make pulp are kept the way they should be, but how you manage your employees, how you do your marketing, there's a lot of areas where a franchisee has the ability to go off and do things the way they think they should be done. Just they come from different backgrounds, different majors in college or different work experience, and you know they use that, and that's okay. That was my toughest time. That was the toughest 2-year period where I thought about scrapping, you know, all of franchising just because I could not get around somebody taking care of my pulp and not taking care of it the exact way that I would take care of it.
Now we're going to hear a little bit from Alicia Robinson. She's the founder and ED of Limitless Ambition. And Alicia shares, looking back at her career, what she knows now that she wishes she would have done, that she wishes she would have known at the beginning.
Similar to most entrepreneurs, when I first started Limitless Ambition, I was doing everything. I think when we got to about 3 years old, I really sat down and thought about, well, what do I enjoy doing and what don't I enjoy doing? And then what are my natural skill sets and abilities that I really want to lean into? And so from that, I really just discovered, and I wish I would have did it sooner, it is better to kind of invest more upfront or try to get help earlier on, especially in different areas that you don't want to do. I think the number one thing that
Finally, I want to share a short snippet from TJ Mack. TJ is the founder of Float the River in Cuyahoga Falls. And here he is sharing a little bit about how he discovered that entrepreneurship was the right path for him.
I would have known that I wanted to be an entrepreneur in high school. I wish somebody would have told me, like, that's an option for you. But society, my parents, my friends, everybody told me that college is the only way that you can be successful. And I'm a competitive person. I want to be successful. So I went to college. It was much later on in my life when I found out that I did want to be an entrepreneur. I went to college, hated that, quit, started a company, went up in the ranks of the company. It's great money, and I still wasn't fulfilled. I had everything I wanted. I had a brand new truck, you know, all the toys that I could think of, four-wheelers, but it still wasn't fulfilling for me. It's about being an entrepreneur and being my own boss. And
we could listen to TJ all day, but that was the bit I wanted to share most with you. So when we talk about these speakers and this series and students engaging meaningfully with these professionals are coming into the classroom via these videos and talking about challenges they faced, how they decided that they wouldn't give up even though they wanted to in the hardest part of their business career, what they wish they would have known now, right? At the beginning that they know now. So they're having these primed and really engaging conversations, or rather sharing these primed and very engaging opinions about their experience, which is super, but also those videos are 5 minutes. So how does that translate to a lesson? The good thing is that we've built entire lessons around these short videos for you. So like I said at the beginning, everything that you need to teach a lesson or everything that is recommended you use for the program is included. For example, a preparation activity for these speakers. You have a worksheet that we recommend you give to your students and have them do a little bit of preliminary work, some basic research about the business or the entrepreneur before you show the video, or have them watch it on their own. That's followed by an in-class activity. Ask the kids to pay attention and note something fascinating, interesting, unusual as they're watching this video or after the fact. And then we encourage you to use those notes, what you saw as a key takeaway, what those students were describing or noting. Use that to seed classroom discussion. Whether it's small groups or as a whole, you'll be able to see very quickly that these kinds of activities and hearing from these entrepreneurs excites and engages your students, and it allows you to be more effective in connecting the classroom conversation with maybe the student's own concept or what they might imagine or want to be building for themselves. Similarly, I hope it's clear that you could conceivably spend 15 or 20 minutes this afternoon doing a basic Google search of those 14 entrepreneurs that have offered videos and done interviews for us. Identify the one you think might resonate most with your students. Jump into that shared drive to copy your worksheets and go. It's a very simple way to really and truly start using our materials today. You don't have to do all of it at once. Taking another step further into this idea of children seeing what they can be and really connecting them meaningfully with professionals. As a video series of workshops that are provided with your materials, where we have real professionals offering real expertise to your students. This is also available at the website, much like the speaker series. You can start using these workshops today. Each workshop covers a different aspect of business development or business concept development, and each comes with its own supporting materials, workbooks, etc. Rather than go through and show snippets of each workshop, I wanted to just touch on what they are, so you have an idea of how they might be used in your classroom. The first is a social media writing workshop. It is hosted and administered essentially by Miranda Empiri. Miranda owns a digital marketing agency here in Cuyahoga Falls. In this workshop, students learn about social media platforms and the target demographics that engage with those platforms. They then are challenged to apply that knowledge to effectively identify target audiences for their own business concepts, and then shape some language and messaging so that they can practice reaching those target audiences as if they were an operating business. Secondly, we have a feasibility workshop, and that is administered by Bounce Innovation Hub. Bounce is an incubator in the Akron area. Essentially, this is a really great workshop. This one really helps students to understand that having a good idea doesn't mean having a great business opportunity, right? Feasibility means function. So students are introduced to the concept of feasibility, what it really means, and then ultimately are able to test and evaluate the feasibility of their own business concepts throughout the workshop. And then finally, we have a workshop, Legal Considerations When Starting a Business. That is offered by Kay Gruner. She is an attorney, and she also is the owner of Startup Heartup, which is a company that helps budding entrepreneurs take their ideas from idea to launch. In her workshop, students explore some of the key concepts, more tactical concepts associated with business and concept development. They answer questions like, what licenses might I need for my business concept? Do I need permits? Do I need insurance? What is the best legal structure? Should I be an LLC or an S Corp, right? Those are the sorts of questions that they work through and start to conceptualize about their own business ideas. Much like that speaker series, everything is provided for you. It's available online. When you go to the videos, you'll see that there is this little icon in the bottom right. Oops, sorry. This little icon in the bottom right, that is your navigation. It's your chapter menu, essentially. So the workshops are chaptered for really easy navigation. And those chapters relate directly back to the activities and the worksheets that we offer to support the workshop. So Workbooks and worksheets are included. What you're seeing here is a sample of one of the worksheets your students would be completing for the social media writing workshop. And you'll notice they relate pretty directly to the chapters of that video. We wanted to make it super simple for you and your students to connect the work they're doing with the worksheet that they're workshop that they're watching. And finally, samples are included. I don't know how many former entrepreneurs we have in attendance today, but for most classroom educators, you may not have a lot of experience identifying the key target demographics and characteristics of a person for a dessert bar, for example, right? So that's okay. We've provided that information for you. Two Cherries is a fictional business that we have created to sort of demonstrate the progression of a concept throughout the program. So for every worksheet and for every activity, for every activity you do in a workshop, there is a completed sample using this concept of two cherries so that it's A, familiar, and B, something tangible for both you and your student to refer to as they're working through their own concept, right? You don't have to be an expert on target audiences to help your students or walk them through this workshop on segmentation and target audience identification. The professionals and their materials and our samples give you as much guidance as you and your students might possibly need as they work through their own concepts. Our video workshops are one more way that you can start working with your students today using Entrepreneur Pathways. Much like the video speaker series, you could use one or all of them. Again, the lesson plans for these are included in your guidebooks. Those are the resources and other materials you get when you register for the program. And everything is walked through pretty simply and step-by-step for you. So I thought I would take a minute before I move to the next section about program flexibility to see if there were any burning questions about using your materials today. Okay. All right, then I'm going to move on to the next section and chat a little bit about program flexibility. You don't have to use all of EntrepreNew Pathways at once. Again, you open your files and you see 100 different documents and it feels like a lot. Just because you can use all of it doesn't mean you have to. You are absolutely entitled to use, in fact, encouraged to use individual guidebooks, individual lessons, or individual activities. We're going to just dive into a couple of those that we recommend being really effective for independent or like standalone use, items that work really well for your students, even if you're not using the full and encompassing program. So if you wanted to use an individual lesson or an individual activity, it's very simple. Just begin at the beginning. Choose the right guidebook. Visit your resource folder, and the first item there is EntrepreNew Pathways Navigator. Your Navigator does a lot for you, not the least of which is to describe each guidebook and summarize the lesson and the goals within. So I'm going to make some specific recommendations at the end of this section, but for the moment, we're going to pretend that you are perusing your materials and trying to decide what you think might be best. Open up your Navigator, review your guidebook, select the lesson or materials that you're most interested in, and then open up that lesson, review the lesson and its details. Each guidebook comes with complete lesson plans. I wasn't kidding when I said that things were comprehensive at the very start of this. This is just a snapshot of what you'll see when you open your guidebook, but these guidebooks include everything from key concepts to student outcomes. I mean, they're very thorough and pretty explicit, very easy to use and understand how you might identify a lesson like social awareness in a professional situation and decide that that's the right lesson for you and your students. Once you've reviewed the lesson, you've identified your lesson, your concepts, etc. Take a look at the suggestions for implementation. This is your lesson plan. We call them suggestions for implementation because they are suggestions, though they are pretty thorough and step by step. They reference every resource, every worksheet, every item you might need to complete the lesson. They are suggestions, right? This is based off of Emily's and our pilot teachers' experiences, which were predominantly 45-minute class sessions 4 or 5 days a week. Not everybody has that schedule, right? If you need to spend more time or less time or omit portions of these suggestions, please do that. You're supposed to. It's supposed to be flexible. If you want to follow it to a T, also great. You can, and you're supported through that. Finally, you've looked at your suggestions. The next step before using the program or using the materials in your classroom is to collect your resources. Again, you have that resource folder when you access your materials. In every guidebook, the resources that are indicated or referred to are listed for you so that you know exactly which documents you need. You simply then move to the resource folder, you make your copies, and you share those with your LMS via LMS accordingly. So that's pretty much the long and short of it. You pick a topic, you pick a lesson or a guidebook, and you can conceivably start using a lot of those things in your classrooms today. A few of the guidebooks that are particularly effective for this sort of standalone independent manner. Guidebook 3 features networking and relationship building. Guidebook 4 explores time management and goal setting. And Guidebook 7 is pitching your business and failing up in entrepreneurship. That one in particular is one that I really enjoy. It features the Young Entrepreneur Pitch Challenge, which is amazing in and of itself. There's a reason we included it in our materials. But we've also built some lessons outside of that to sort of expand the concept of failure and how failures should be treated like opportunities for growth and change, and how you can use feedback. You should seek feedback and solicit real, meaningful, constructive feedback and use it to improve not just your pitch, but also your business concept. So one way to see that the program is pretty flexible. Secondly, I want to talk about the problem-solving workshop with real-world business partners. This is another one of those items that's pretty flexible. This is a very cool experience-based project. But it allows your students to tackle real problems with real stakes and clearly connect what they're learning in the classroom with real-world application. This is not something that you can do today. This is something that you would need to plan for, but you can absolutely use it independently of the remaining materials. It's also really well suited to helping incorporate entrepreneurship into a traditional classroom setting, social studies classroom, an English classroom, a psychology classroom. It really explores group work and how, even though we all don't love it, we all have to do it, and there are ways to do it effectively. And it also serves as a vehicle for students to develop and demonstrate use of the power skills that they're growing over the program. This workshop is a new thing, but I like to set proper expectations. Planning and community collaboration are necessary. You can't start this tomorrow. You can easily adopt this for a traditional classroom setting. It is challenging to pull off, but it's also very, very rewarding. The first year is the hardest. After that, it's wonderful. I have a few, okay, good. I have some good pictures here. So before I dig into how it's executed and how we support you and how the program materials support you in executing it, I wanted to talk a little bit about our experience here at EntrepreNew. I'm sorry, here in Woodridge with EntrepreNew. So we've done this for 4 years now, Every year we've collaborated with either a business partner or a community organization. And every year our partner has adopted some variation of the winning solution. So essentially what happens is you connect your students with a community partner. You identify a problem that a real problem this partner is facing and needs solved for their business or their organization. And then you guide your students through researching and preparing a viable solution. Ultimately, they present that solution in a corporate-like setting and are evaluated by the partner. Again, in every instance of this workshop over the last 4 years, the winning solution has been adopted. Some variation of that solution has been adopted. We worked with a local restaurant where the problem was to find a way to bring new guests into the restaurant and also increase return rates so that guests were coming in time and time again. The solution there was a new menu item contest for the Tavern of Stowe. We've also collaborated with the city of Cuyahoga Falls to increase participation of local residents in a river cleanup program. So it's super fun. It does take some planning, coordinating. I think you can see now why it takes planning. You got to coordinate schedules and deadlines with this partner, which is really the bulk of the planning and prep, as well as identifying an appropriate problem. We've done this for 4 years. You get all of the tools that we use here to source and to source your partner and your problem. Those are included in your curricular materials. You get guidance in selecting your problem. This is a snapshot of a worksheet called Creating Your Problem Solving Workshop. That's in your resources. That really emphasizes what you should do and what you should not do when you're evaluating a problem, right? There are things that aren't great. If the problem's too complicated, you're ultimately setting your students up for failure, right? If the problem isn't solved and there are real critical stakes for the business partner or community organization, you don't want to put that pressure on yourself, your students, or the partner, right? So clear guidance in selecting a problem and ensuring that it can be meaningfully addressed by your students is offered. And again, clear examples of each step. So if you don't know what a decent proposal should look like, or you want some clarity, we offer that. We also offer a completed sample solution, a sample worksheet, a sample solution, and a sample, we call it a request for proposals, but you're sending out, you're contacting partners and asking if they have problems they want to contribute. We give you completed samples of all of those things so that you have all the tools and resources we do and can create your program and your workshop similarly. So we are about to embark on this very small last section here, but I wanted to stop and see if there were any immediate questions about the flexibility of EntrepreNew pathways and adopting parts of the curriculum. Okay. Last, but certainly not least, I want to talk about growing your program. So at the very beginning, we talked about those 3 pillars, right? There's extreme exposure to entrepreneurship presented through that video speaker series. Here locally, we have all of our entrepreneurs come into the classroom, or we take our students and visit them at their business locations and have an in real life speaker series. If you decide you really like the videos and you're getting great engagement and elevation for your program out of that, and you want to grow your own speaker series, you can absolutely do that. Resource number 48, it is creating an inspiring speaker series. It is in the program materials, and it gives you all of the guidance needed so that you can build your own speaker series. Everything from sourcing your speakers to preparing them to interact with your students. Entrepreneurs get very excited about talking to children. but they forget that they're talking to 15-year-olds. So prepping them in a particular way, making sure that they know how to talk to their audience, that sort of preparation is included in your materials, as are some activities that help your students prepare, not only to hear the speaker share their story, but to interact with that speaker in an appropriate and professional manner when they're in the classroom. They're thorough and easy to use, just like everything else I've demonstrated for you today. Secondly, you can build an EntrepreNew mentor program. Mentorship is a key piece of the program. The mentor program is not something that you can do tomorrow. It does take time because you need to source mentors that are appropriate and available for your students, right? So in much the same way that we offer guidance for sourcing your speakers, we offer guidance for sourcing mentors and preparing them for interactions with your students. The materials we offer, resource 4 is where to start, EntrepreNew Pathways, creating an EntrepreNew mentor program. That document includes everything from sourcing mentors, preparing them for interactions, and most importantly, overcoming any objections that a potential mentor or guest speaker, but particularly a mentor, might have. In our experience, a lot of the partners were super excited to be a part of the program, but when they heard mentor, they were a tad deterred. They thought it would be super time consuming. They were concerned about the time commitment, or concerned that they would have to create their own materials and didn't feel prepared or qualified to do that. We overcome those objections in the materials we provide you. Essentially, they commit to meeting a student anywhere from ideally all 10 times over the school year for about an hour. And the discussion prompts, all of the mentor meetings are focused on these discussions between the mentor and the student, and they're given the materials in advance. So details on that and what that really means are included. We help you overcome those objections along the way. And again, those materials are pretty thorough and easy to use, much like everything else. Finally, if you find this super valuable and you decide you want to build an entire entrepreneurship program in your classroom using EntrepreNew Pathways, awesome. We do offer assessments. We touched on this very briefly at the beginning, but they're called GPS checkpoints. They're assessments. They have been assessed for validity and reliability. So they really do demonstrate skill growth over the course of a program. So if you were to adopt it and need assessments for things like grades, you have those tools as well. See guidebooks 1 and 6 for instructions on those. And that is just about it. I wanted to let you know to stay tuned for some additional workshops. We're offering a few more of these on EntrepreNew throughout the rest of the school year. Dates and topics to be announced. So we'll keep you posted on that. We will be for sure exploring the EntrepreNew Mentor Maps for CTE and building community partnerships so that you can elevate your program. Registration and access, like Robin mentioned at the beginning, you can get EntrepreNew Pathways materials today and for free. Awesome, thank you. That's available at the YEI storefront on YIPI. Additionally, you can also access training sessions, as Robin mentioned, training sessions with Emily or myself on various aspects of implementing EntrepreNew via YIPI as well. If you visit the Startup Trade Up storefront on YIPI, you can start setting up those sessions today. And then finally, you can visit startuptradeup.com for more information on professional development, keynote speaking, or other support related to EntrepreNew. We have a few minutes. If there are any questions.
Couple minutes if anyone has any questions or want to go deeper. I know that we've had a couple people join sort of in between, and I was actually going to ask you, Nadia, if you could, give your elevator speech again for what the overall program is, not necessarily just the mentor maps or the individual things, but sort of the broad brush stroke for those people who joined us late.
Sure. So EntrepreNew is a fully comprehensive, EntrepreNew Pathways is a fully comprehensive entrepreneurship curriculum for 10th through 12th graders. It includes everything you need to implement a program, detailed lesson plans, assessments, worksheets. The program itself is really rooted in this idea that children must see what they can be. So we've made an incredible effort to bring real professionals, particularly entrepreneurs, into the classroom via a video speaker series and a video lecture series. The program is super flexible. There are ways to start using it today. You don't have to be intimidated by the term comprehensive. There's a reason we also use the term turnkey to describe the curriculum.
Excellent, thank you. And I will get into exactly how you can find this from YEI. But before we get into that, I do want to introduce everyone to Eileen Frankel, who is the Executive Director at the Young Entrepreneur Institute, who has a couple of real quick announcements. Then we'll get into a little bit more about EntrepreNew and YEI, and we'll end right at 5. So Eileen.
Oops, sorry, didn't turn off my my mute button. Thanks, Nadia, and thanks to Burton D. Morgan Foundation. As many of you have heard, Burton D. Morgan Foundation is the funder behind a lot of the youth entrepreneurship programming and support that we provide at YEI. They are also the funder behind EntrepreNew, and we are so grateful for that support and the ability to provide the curriculum open source and free of charge. Now I'm shifting into professional development. So the Inspire Conference, for those of you who aren't familiar, is our YEI Professional Development Conference. We are entering the 8th year. And we bring together speakers, we bring together educators, we bring together program providers, and we focus on best practices in teaching youth entrepreneurship. We have 3 days for the conference this year. 1 day is virtual, Thursday, October 19th. The focus on the first virtual day is AI in teaching entrepreneurship. So how to use ChatGPT to help kids think of incredible business ideas. Conference day 2 is in person here in Cleveland at University School. That's an after-school session. And conference day 3 is on Saturday at Cleveland State University. For those of you here in Cleveland, all of those days will have valet parking, so no need to worry about the difficulty of being downtown. The content, I'll quickly go through some of the key benefits of the content. Hands-on workshop focused on artificial intelligence and also teaching creativity and ideation skills for kids. You can get certified in that, teaching ideation and skills and tools. There will be peer-to-peer presentations. There will be a YEI provider showcase filled with all the incredibly valuable programs and resources, experiences that are available in YEI. YEI points awarded, so you can go shopping, take home tools for your classroom, giveaways, and more. Here's our great speaker lineup. We have Leon Bibb as our event host. There's a testimonial there, and if you click here, you can find out more information about speakers and schedule. For those of you who are not yet registered, I am going to give you a secret code, YEI friend. This is your code for free registration for those of you here today. Don't tell. No, really, please tell. Please tell everyone. We are looking to have a really wonderful audience of engaged educators who are contributing to a very impactful conference. So we can't wait to see you there, October 19, 2021.
Did you want to talk about the next power hour, or should I?
That is you. That's
okay.
For you.
All right, well, thanks. And I can attest to everyone, Inspire is really inspiring, and I hope to see everyone there. Our next power hour is another power hour workshop, and it'll be on September 20th. And its topic is also for high school educators, specifically in Ohio. It's the Entrepreneurship Pathways to Workforce Readiness, including the toolkit, workshops, and consulting. It's going to take place at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time and at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Another code I want to mention is SEP7PH. That is the code that you can use to earn 250 YIPI points for attending today's Power Hour. And I am going to do a quick little plug here on YIPI because I think we have a lot of people who might not know what YIPI is and what it's about. YIPI is a grant delivery platform that provides educators with access to entrepreneurship education resources, all for free, thanks to many funders, including the Burton D. Morgan Foundation, the Harvard Business Club, lots of different foundations. But the point is, for educators, you use points to buy products that are sponsored by our funders. So it's free to use. It's free to you, but it's not really free. We do have funding backing up all of these really great vetted resources. Educators go on, you get to choose the product that you want. Providers get to decide what type of resource they want to offer. And then the sponsors get to decide where they will direct their sponsorship dollars. When all three of those things align, a match is made and a grant is given without any of the paperwork. Let me write this up. It is yippee.exchange. All you need to do is go to www.yippee.exchange and register. For registering, you get 500 points. You can add this code that I gave you and that someone put in the chat there for 250 extra points. And now you have 750 points, which is like $750 worth of grants that you get to choose. No paperwork. When you go in there, you can look up the Young Entrepreneur Institute and find the EntrepreNew programming, the toolkit that you can download for free. And you can get it that way. And then if you have additional questions that you have, you can go to the Startup Trade Up storefront, which is what Emily and Nadia are working on. And you can get their expert advice from a sponsored product. So you can use some of your points to purchase their consulting services. And you can look for a ton of different other resources and entrepreneurship education resources that you that you might want. So that is what we're referring to when we say YIPI. I just wanted to make sure everyone had the same base. We also are going to be dropping in a link to an exit survey today. We're going to be offering a chance to win a gift card for filling that out. And you will also get this as well as all of the information that Nadia went over in email that you'll be getting from Evan Newell within the next day or two. I want to thank everyone for joining. It is 5 o'clock somewhere, and that somewhere is here. But I also especially want to thank Nadia for her time and her expertise and sharing all the great and wonderful resources available in the EntrepreNew Pathways curriculum. And lastly, just remind you that we do work in this space every day. And if we can help you with any ideas or any resources, please don't be shy. Just reach out, let us know. And that officially concludes our Power Hour. I'm going to stay on and answer any questions that you might not have had a chance to ask or didn't want to ask while we were recording. We are going to stop the recording and stay on. Thank you all for joining us for this hour. And we hope to see you on the 20th.